Gloria Allred represents several dozen women who have accused Bill Cosby of sexual misconduct, and she also is scheduled to have a press conference.
She's just starting that press conference right now. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Today, Bill Cosby was charged in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, with aggravated indecent assault, a felony. For many of my 29 clients who allege that they are victims of Bill Cosby, seeing him criminally charged and having to face a trial is the best Christmas present that they have ever received. The allegations in the Pennsylvania criminal case against Mr. Cosby relate to conduct that Mr. Cosby is alleged to have inflicted on Andrea Constant in 2004, as within the statute of limitations, SOL, for prosecution in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, for most of the women who allege that they are victims of Mr. Cosby, it is too late for their allegations to be the subject of a criminal prosecution or a civil case because of the arbitrary and restrictive time limits set by law. We are working in many states to eliminate the statute of limitations or to lengthen the time limit for criminal prosecution of rape and sexual assault. While I do represent 29 alleged victims of Mr. Cosby, I represent only one in a civil lawsuit. My client, Judy Huth, alleges in her lawsuit that she was 15 years old when Mr. Cosby victimized her at the Playboy Mansion. We took Mr. Cosby's deposition in Ms. Huth's case in October 2015 in Boston. The court has ordered a protective order on that deposition. For that reason, we are unable to comment on what Mr. Cosby said in his deposition in this case. I can say, however, that earlier this month, we filed a motion to compel a second deposition of Mr. Cosby. Our motion was based in part on his refusal to answer certain questions in the October deposition. That motion is filed under seal and is scheduled to be heard on February 2nd, 2016 in Department N of the Los Angeles County Superior Court. We are also scheduled to return to that court on February 26, 2016 for a status conference, and the issue of the protective order may be discussed at that time. Further, our client's deposition will be taken by Mr. Cosby's lawyers on January 29, 2016, and we have scheduled and noticed a deposition of another person in the case for February. It is very significant that the Montgomery County District Attorney felt that the case against Mr. Cosby was strong enough that it could meet the standard of proof in a criminal case. That standard of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. This is a much higher standard of proof than is required in a civil case. In our civil case, on behalf of Ms. Huth, our burden of proof is much lower. To prevail, we need only prove our case by a preponderance of evidence, or by clear and convincing evidence if we are seeking punitive damages. Both standards of proof are less than are required in a criminal case. I'm very proud of the courage of my client, Judy Huth, and all of my clients who have chosen to speak out in the court of public opinion and who are seeking to eliminate the statute of limitations or lengthen it in their states. A bill to eliminate it in California will be introduced in January, and I am supporting that bill and working with the Senator Leyva, who will be introducing it. So many women who allege that they are victims of Bill Cosby have cried out for justice for so long. In Pennsylvania, there is now a journey to justice in the felony case filed against Mr. Cosby. I'm very happy that this day has finally come. Mr. Cosby deserves a fair trial, but so does Andrea Constant and the people of the state of Pennsylvania. Mr. Cosby was born in Philadelphia, and I was born there as well. He attended Central High School an all-boys, all-academic public high school. I attended Girls High, the all-girls, all-academic public high school, a few blocks away. He went to Temple University in Philadelphia. I am a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. He came to Los Angeles in the 60s. I also moved to Los Angeles in the 60s. Our paths never crossed until his deposition in October in Boston. But I will now be carefully monitoring the progress of his criminal case. If the prosecutor decides that it is relevant and admissible to call any of my clients as witnesses in the criminal case, I know that many of my clients will be willing to testify, and we look forward to a just result. And before I take questions, so this is a copy of the arrest warrant, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William Henry Cosby. And this is from the criminal docket in that case. All right.
This one was the front.
Okay, so I'm happy to
Gloria,
answer
I know you
some
can't go into
questions.
details, but is there anything that was said or gleaned out of that deposition in October that may have tipped the scale for the DA in Philadelphia?
The district attorney and also law enforcement in Philadelphia do not have a copy of our October deposition because it is the subject of a protective order. So I have not been able to provide it to them, and they have not obtained it. Had they obtained it, I would know about it, and the court would have had to order it, and I would have had notice of that.
How come only one of your 29 clients have filed charges, civil cases against Mr. Cosby?
As I've indicated, for most of my clients, the statute of limitations has barred them, prevented them from proceeding with a civil lawsuit. In other words, it's too late. They could file it, but then Mr. Cosby, as an affirmative defense, could assert the statute of limitations. The case would be dismissed. So there's no point in filing that which would be dismissed, and there would be no trial.
And even in civil case?
That's a civil, there is a statute of limitations in civil cases, and there's a statute of limitations in criminal cases. We have 50 states in the United States. There are a variety of statute of limitations. There are often differing statute of limitations in one state for criminal prosecution and even for a civil lawsuit. Different statute of limitations for a civil lawsuit by an adult survivor of child sexual abuse, which is what is alleged in our Judy Huff case, or for an adult survivor of adult sexual abuse. It's different in every state. In Nevada, one of my clients, Liselott Lublin, and I testified before the Nevada legislature. We sought to eliminate the statute of limitations for criminal prosecution of rape in Nevada. The bill was amended. It didn't eliminate it, but it did lengthen it. And then we were with Governor Sandoval when he signed it into law, which we very much appreciated. And so Lise was a real hero for making sure that she found an author for the bill, and then it went through the Nevada legislature, and now we're doing that in California. And I'm sure I believe you'll be hearing more about that next week.
Gloria,
And there's also an effort in Colorado by one of my clients, well, two of my clients there, and I have spoken to the legislator in Nevada at a meeting. And that, I believe, will be also proceeding in Colorado. And I know I have clients in other states who are trying to do the same.
Gloria, in many of the reports.
We've been listening to a press conference by Gloria Allred, who represents 29 women who have said that they were assaulted in some fashion by Bill Cosby. They accuse him of that. We do want to go ahead and bring in Lori Levinson, a criminal law professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. Lori, were you able to listen to that press conference?
Yes, I was, and I know Gloria very well. She's a graduate of our law school.
I'm really curious with the description of all of the statute of limitations and why certain of her clients were not able, actually all but one of her clients was not able to bring forward a civil lawsuit. If you could kind of take us, get us out of the weeds of why there are so many points of reference in terms of, when these cases can be litigated.
Well, that's because, in fact, the legislatures made determinations years ago about what would be fair to both the prosecutors and the defense, and that they would prefer cases to happen sooner rather than later, so the witnesses would be fresh and the allegations would be fresh. However, we have learned through the years that victims of sexual abuse are very reluctant to come forward, and especially against famous people. So we've seen a lengthening of the statute of limitations. Here in California, where she represents people, the statute of limitations is only 6 years, and her clients are making allegations that are decades old, and that's even for a criminal case. Civil cases are shorter. She has one victim who can fit through a loophole that was made for an exception where juveniles are molested, and then they have repressed memories, and years later they can come back and bring a lawsuit. And so that was her reference to the Judy Hoff civil case. But there's not that exception right now under the California Criminal Code, and we cannot retroactively change the statute of limitations. So even if they do away with it here in California, Bill Cosby still wouldn't get charged because constitutionally they couldn't do that. So in the big picture, I think what Gloria Allred was saying is that in some ways Bill Cosby's getting off light. He's got this one case against him with scores of other accusers and victims who the best they can do is point to this case and say, see, we weren't lying.
I do want to point out to people just tuning in what they're looking at right now. This is the Cheltenham Police Department in Pennsylvania, where we expect Bill Cosby to be booked at some point in time. Again, there was $1 million of bail set. He has posted $100,000, 1% of that. We've been watching throughout the day today as he was charged with these allegations that it was a
Aggravated assault.
yes, the specific charges.
Second-degree aggravated indecent assault without consent, aggravated indecent assault where the victim was unconscious or unaware that penetration was occurring. This is the legal documentation that I'm quoting here now. And another count of aggravated indecent assault where the person was impaired. And as you have told us, Lori, that means that essentially, in layman's terms, that several of, or at least this one particular, in this case, the victim was allegedly drugged. Your words, as I recall.
We want to turn our attention now. Lori, please stay on the phone with us. You've been great to provide context to what's going on. But we have Jerika Duncan, our reporter who was inside the courtroom as that arraignment was taking place with Bill Cosby. Jerika, are you there?
I am here.
Can you describe what happened?
Yeah, so as Bill Cosby was walking in, he was getting assisted by one of his attorneys. And even as he was coming in, he seemed to have a hard time figuring out where exactly he was, saying, oh, do I step over here? Once he got in the courtroom, he didn't really say much. He seemed pretty calm and relaxed. I saw his attorney, the female attorney, say a few things to him before the judge came out, possibly explaining some of what you were just describing there, Michelle, regarding the aggravated and indecent assault charges. And then his other attorney came in following the woman who escorted him into the courtroom. The judge came out. She pretty much laid down the law in the very beginning and said there would be no photos taken in the courtroom, no cameras were allowed, obviously, and said that this was going to be a very short proceeding, which it was. It took about anywhere from 7, I'd say, to 10 minutes at the most. And she essentially laid out those charges of the aggravated indecent assault charge to Mr. Cosby, asked him if he understood. He said yes. She said that he had a $1 million 10% bail, that he would continue on to the Cheltenham Police Department to get processed, and that was it. He also was told that there would be an opportunity for him to have a preliminary hearing in January 14th. But as for where that hearing would be and what time was to be announced. But, you know, a lot of people were kind of waiting and looking at Bill Cosby's every move. Obviously, this is a TV legend, and to hear that he has been charged criminally with a crime like this after so many women have come forward over this last year claiming that they, too, were sexually assaulted by Bill Cosby. Every reporter in there, you know, you're looking for any details, anything that might add more layers to the story and understanding what his mindset is and what his mind frame is at this time. But again, he seemed pretty calm, and even at the very end, the judge said, "Good luck to you, sir," and he cheerfully said, "Thank you." And that was it. So it was very short, to the point. We now know more about the charges, and I'm sure you guys, again, have been going over this affidavit, which describes pretty much in detail as to what Andrea Conrad said and what Bill Cosby said based on the depositions given more than 10 years ago. But that's where we are right now. Bill Cosby was taken to that police department, as you mentioned, to finish being processed. And he drove away, interestingly enough, and I believe it was a Suburban. Jamie McGlinchey, my producer's here with me. And I noticed that it had a Temple University license plate on the back, which is just a little ironic only because, you know, he's been known to have donated a lot of money to that university, but they've also distanced themselves over the last few months as these allegations came forward. But he, you know, used to wear the Temple University shirts on and the Bill Cosby shows and had a lot of love for that university. And that, in fact, is where he is alleged to have met Andrea Conrad, who is the reason why, you know, we're talking about him today. So other than that, I mean, it's, as you can imagine, a lot of media presence out here. This is a big story. I mean, for so long we've heard about allegations in all these various stories that seem to be very similar in nature, and to actually, again, see that he is now being criminally charged takes it to a different level.
You know, Jerika, a lot of people were halted. I mean, really, that criminal charges had been waged against Bill Cosby, because for so long that mantra of the statute of limitations has run out. The statute of limitations has run out. And here in this individual case, in this individual place and setting, they have not.
Right. And when you look at the affidavit and you realize, you know, that time period where she talks about it happened somewhere between January and February of 2014. She then goes back to Canada, apparently visits with her mother. Her mother notices that something's not right, and she keeps questioning her daughter. Her daughter then tells her mother that she was sexually assaulted by Bill Cosby, and that kind of got the ball rolling then, and the police involved, et cetera, et cetera. And then, again, as we now know, the former district attorney here in Montgomery County chose not to pursue those charges and sent out a press release back in 2005 stating that, you know, there might be an opportunity if more information arose, but that never happened. And this affidavit really spells out that the reason why they reopened this case is because of all of the attention that the deposition, these unsealed depositions back in July received. And as you heard from the prosecutor, he said it was our duty. You know, we've really had no choice but to look at this again with all the information that came out of those unsealed documents.
All right, Jerika, thank you so much. We want to turn our attention again to a press conference being held by Gloria Allred, who represents 21 women who have come forth with similar allegations. She's discussing this specific case right now. Let's listen.
Anyone from that law firm or another law firm, don't know. I just know that from the point of view of a civil case, that's who's representing him.
How about the chance of him ever being convicted?
I
On
really,
this case?
yeah, in the criminal case?
On
Yeah,
this case?
yeah. I really can't comment on that because I'm not aware of all of the evidence that the district attorney has. But it's clear that the district attorney's office believes that there's probable cause to arrest him and that they believe they have evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That, of course, will be up to the jury and I never predict what a jury will do.
Gloria, people who have been making the accusations against Bill Cosby have obviously been frustrated by the fact that there have never been criminal charges filed against him. You explained why. Maybe you are also someone who's been frustrated by that fact. Because of that, is there a feeling on with you right now that this is about time?
Well, actually, I'm never frustrated by anything because I believe in action, and frustration is kind of a waste of time as far as I'm concerned, a waste of my energy. But having said that, I know this is a very, very high-profile case. At this point, probably it is going to be the highest-profile criminal case in this country, at least involving a celebrity. And so, you know, I'm glad that this day has come, and that in a court of law, this matter will be decided. You know, Mr. Cosby's attorneys at some point seem to have indicated, well, but he's never been charged with a crime. Okay, now he is charged with a crime. Now he will have his day in court on this. And then we'll see what happens. I can't predict. But obviously, there would not be a day in court in a criminal case unless these charges were filed. And that's what's happened. The former district attorney, Bruce Castor, did not file way back in 2005 and has made some statements about why he didn't file. And he is now a defendant in a defamation case brought by Andre Constant for some of what he said. And therefore, I'm not going to repeat what he said. But now, you know, you've heard the expression, there's a new sheriff in town. Well, there's a new district attorney that's just been elected in Montgomery County. And he ran against Bruce Castor in this recent election. And this new district attorney has been elected. And so that's Kevin R. Steele, whom you saw this morning in a news conference.
Gloria, there are some reports saying that considering his age, that he would consider taking a plea deal. And what are your, like a plea bargain with the DA? What are your thoughts?
I have no idea whether a plea will be offered, and if it is offered, whether he would accept a plea. I don't know whether his age would factor into it as far as Mr. Cosby is concerned. I think of him as a young man, actually, because he's only 4 years older than I am.
In your dealings with him, Gloria, did you get the idea that he was that he really felt he was above the law? I'm Bill Cosby, I can do whatever I want, no one can touch me.
I'm sorry, but I'm not able to comment on that, because the only direct contact I've had, or the only time I've even met Mr. Cosby, was at his deposition. So I cannot comment on his demeanor or anything else about it at that deposition.
Is that hearing going to be open, Gloria, when you ask to...
Compel?
Yeah.
I really don't know how that hearing is going to proceed. On February 2nd, the motion to compel a second deposition of Mr. Cosby, because every hearing is open to the public unless the court decides to close the hearing. Right now, everything has to be filed under seal, and we did that.
Does it have to be?
And, but as far as I know, that hearing is still open to the public. So whether that changes, I don't know. How the court will choose to conduct that hearing, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Will he be attending that hearing?
I don't know whether Mr. Cosby will be attending that hearing. It is not necessary for him to attend any hearing in a civil case. He's not attended any hearing in this case to date, and I really don't expect him to, although I don't have any knowledge of that. I would think it's probably highly unlikely. His attorneys will be there.
You spoke about your
And you know, the only guess I'll make is that they will oppose the second deposition, That's just a guess.
Gloria, you spoke about the 40 clients that you represent being willing and available to testify. In
29, yeah.
The Pennsylvania District Attorney put out in his press release today encouraging those victims to contact him.
Yes, I saw that. I have a copy of his
Are
press
they
release right here.
contacting them? Are you going to be encouraging them to get in touch with the district attorney?
I represent these alleged victims. Law enforcement is aware that I represent the alleged victims, whom I represent. All of their statements are on my webpage, gloriaallred.com, so that's all open to the public, including law enforcement. Law enforcement knows how to contact me. It's not necessary for my clients to contact law enforcement directly, since law enforcement knows how to contact them, and that would be through me.
Do you think Bill Cosby's in big trouble, Gloria?
Anyone who's charged with a felony has to take it seriously. And it's not going to be a laughing matter. So we'll have to wait and see how he will approach it. If he were convicted, he could be sentenced to prison for a number of years. But it's too early to say. We don't know what will happen next in terms of what evidence will be presented. So we'll have to wait and see.
Gloria?
Yes.
His bail was set at $1 million. Do you feel that was appropriate?
His bail was set at $1 million. Do I think that was appropriate? Well, obviously, a judicial officer thought it was appropriate. Apparently, Mr. Cosby would have the means to post bail. Is Mr. Cosby a flight risk? I would be surprised if he were a flight risk. I wouldn't argue that he is. So I don't know what the standards are in Pennsylvania, since I'm not licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania, except I am admitted in that one case in Pennsylvania involving Mr. Cosby.
He made bail.
He made bail?
He made bail.
Okay, he made bail. That's not a surprise. And so that's not a surprise to me. I would expect him to make bail. If it's true that he has net assets of $400 million, it's not a surprise that he could post bail immediately of $1 million. And he probably had a heads up before the news conference that he would be facing this charge. It's just my guess.
Gloria, you won't let go of this case, obviously. Do you feel, or do you take some bit of what happened today because of your actions? If there hadn't been another Gloria Allred doing this, would the prosecutor in Philadelphia even have considered doing this?
I take no credit for this criminal prosecution. I think the credit goes to the courage of Andrea Constant, the persistence of her attorney, and to all of the women who have spoken out in the public court of public opinion. They've had the courage to do it. I've just been there to be supportive of them and to advise them and to assist them. And there are more who've not spoken out, who either may speak out publicly in the future or may, in fact, end up testifying either in the criminal case and or in a civil case.
Stay tuned.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming. And that's, you have that. Oh, and I think you should have copies of my statement. Oh, you have that? No, you don't.
You never get frustrated?
Pardon me?
You never get frustrated?
I never get frustrated. There's no, I have no energy.
And you were just listening to attorney Gloria Allred, a prominent lawyer out of California who has roots in Philadelphia, went to the University of Pennsylvania, just steps away from Temple University, went to a high school not far from where Bill Cosby went to high school, and even moved to California at the same time that Bill Cosby has. And she said she had never encountered him until the moment in time in which she took his deposition in 2014 for her client, Judy Huff. Now, that woman is one of 29 women Gloria Allred represents in women who accuse Cosby of some form of sexual misconduct. And she has been on this case for several years and has really been dogged at making sure that the public was aware of what her client's accusations were, and really going after Mr. Cosby with a reputation, as she's best known, as going after those her clients have claimed wrongdoing of.
Yeah, just before we took Gloria Allred in that press conference, she had been talking about the case and what she knew potentially about Bill Cosby's defense. And she said that she believed there were more than 700 attorneys hired by the Cosby team to fight these allegations.